Hey everybody, welcome to the third video installment of our series, How We Are Saving the World. And it's such an ambitious kind of thing to say, but the truth of the matter is this is something I've been thinking about for years and years and years. I've got a paper here with a bunch of notes on it. I've got plans and plans and plans. But most importantly, I'm giving up everything I have in FruitCraft in order to catalyze a movement that creates social value and that gives us the potential to stop things like climate change and to put an end to economic inequality and to create an economy that works for everyone. And so the task we have in this kind of next step of understanding is the task of realizing where this FruitCraft concept is supposed to end up and the degree to which we can help it get there. And the title of this video is going to be called Make FruitCraft Great Again. I don't know if the again's going to be there or not because it's the first time. Having said that, that is our task. Our task is, how do we make FruitCraft a household name? How is it that consumers all over the country are like, I love FruitCraft, I want to buy from them, and in so doing, when it becomes so successful, it can share tons of wealth and catalyze a movement and operationalize so many other things related to this movement. So first things first, I want to give you a little lesson, and that is, when we're talking about making FruitCraft great, we're talking about still carving out a small slice of a gigantic alcohol market. Just to give you an idea, the alcohol market in the US is a $250 billion market. That is the annual spending you and I spend on alcohol every single year. It is literally one of the largest consumer marketplaces in the country. I think consumer electronics is right there with it, like 250 billion to 300 billion a year, depending on like what gadgets come out. And I think like box office movie ticket sales is like 35 billion around every single year. So gives you an idea of how huge of an industry and just how much consumer spending goes into this particular market. And there's some lessons from that market, specifically with craft beer. Craft beer was something that everyone was saying, oh, it's going to be a fad, et cetera, et cetera. But what we all knew to be true was that if something as low quality as like a Pilsner that's made in Budweiser facilities and is mass produced is the only beer that's an option for us to drink, you better believe the marketplace is going to say, I didn't know the IPA and the stout and these all the things that were higher quality and more experiential existed. And since they do exist, I'm going to migrate my consumption. That has been a permanent migration, very much so generationally. So if you're a millennial man, you are pretty much tied in with drinking craft beer. Well, that same disruption, a $20 billion disruption, mind you, over about a 20-year period, is something that I think will happen continually as the alcohol market evolves. And if you're in the markets that I am and you're in the industry I am, you will understand that right now there are a plethora of other high-quality, tasty, disruptive craft beverages that are coming to market. Craft beer was kind of the pioneer, but now you're seeing things like cider, craft cider. It is definitely on the move here in San Diego. There's like 6 or 7. If you look 3 years ago, there were 0. Same thing with mead. Mead is a honey wine. It's fermented honey. It's a honey alcohol. And that is another thing. Here in San Diego, the craft beer mecca has now shifted a little bit, and people have been inspired to start these mead companies making alcohol from honey. And I think there's another 6 or 7 of those. So really quite interesting. In addition, hard kombucha is something that has been trending. Kombucha has this kind of health benefit quality, and people saw that the benefit of just throwing alcohol in there and making it an alcoholic beverage was another thing. And it's been a huge disruptive thing. Budweiser's got into making hard kombucha. It's been quite the thing. The other category that we are the pioneers of, which I have no doubt is going to be a part of this mix of disruption, is wine that's been made from fruit. It's hard to explain the challenges we've had calling it fruit wine. People think it's going to be sweet, et cetera, et cetera. But let me give you my 2 points on why this category, I think, could be the next big thing in all of these and why I believe it deserves to exist. And simply, it is because it is the original of all alcohols. Literally, if you got into a time machine and you went back 6,000 years ago, you'd probably see beer being invented. You'd probably see people going, fire, grains, and they put it into a boiling pot and they fermented it and it became beer. But if you didn't boil half the ingredients that we use in alcohol production today, it would not spontaneously ferment. So beer could never have existed without mankind's intervention. that is so different from fruit-based alcohol. You know, the history of that is quite simple when you look at the science. In the jungles, in the hunting and gathering we were doing as a society before the agricultural revolution, fruit was naturally fermenting. It was turning into alcohol without the intervention of mankind. And it is not only the tastiest alcohol, in my opinion, keeping in mind the sugars are what the yeast consumed to turn it into alcohol. So all of these beverages would not necessarily be sweet unless there was unfermented sugar left over. And so, you know, this is not only the highest quality and the most flavorful, but it's the most natural. You know, I mean, I'm almost thinking like paleo, right? Your body was predisposed through all those evolutionary changes to say, this is what we grew up eating and drinking as a species, and therefore this is what we want. In many senses, I believe soda is kind of the epitome of that. It's bubbly, it's acidic, it's a little bit sweet, and that is what fruit fermented should essentially become, is a acidic, sweet, bubbly concoction. And so I think we have a predisposition for our palates to prefer those types of things. Without going down the rabbit hole with that, these new craft alcohols are destined to disrupt the industry further, migrating more consumer spending, right? I believe that out of the $250 billion of consumer spending, another $15 billion is up for grabs in the next 15 years. And I believe that the companies who have done their research and done their studying on how the craft beer segment mainstream their category and all the things that happened as that evolved will be able to be the first to market and pioneer and capture the market of these categories. So that is what FruitCraft is positioned to do, and the way we plan on doing it is simply by franchising the concept. It is a fully formed concept. We have the systems in place for manufacturing all of those things: cider, mead, hard kombucha, wine from fruit, and as a matter of fact, distilling these fermented stuff into spirits and making the highest quality spirits known to man as well. Those systems exist. Our sales systems for acquiring members and for acquiring events and for going about that process exist. Our accounting, we have this ERP system that we've invested heavily into, and it is exactly the type of system that if you're looking to franchise a concept, it integrates your accounting, your manufacturing, your sales, and every other enterprise resource planning software you would ever need. And it is powerful, and that is why we're talking about a hugely scalable growth that we're looking to give out for free in order to see the change, to stop climate change, to stop economic inequality. And so what that looks like is over the coming months, we will be inviting local entrepreneurs in places all over the country to apply to start a FruitCraft franchise. That means that we are going to help them assemble a team of people who will help drive the sales for memberships, drive the sales for events, make this concept successful in your city so that when it becomes successful, it can then give out its profits and reinvest into your local cities, revitalizing our local economies and building a world where we're all winning together. With that in mind, let me carve out how much we are looking to carve out in the horizon here. And I think this FruitCraft concept could be like Starbucks in many senses, going all over the country, having many locations in each municipality. You know, I think we're talking larger venues. You know, we want to do weddings and all that kind of stuff. So I would see here in San Diego and other similarly sized marketplaces a good 5, 6, 7 storefront, venue, restaurant, tasting room concepts. But when you map that out into Baltimore and into Portland and every other major metro area, you can see a pattern here where we can open up 300 to 400 concepts, provided we're partnering with the energy that's needed to make it successful and the capital needed to make it successful. And so making FruitCraft great again here is about taking all that we've engineered into the DNA of this concept and planting those seeds all over the country so that they sprout up and produce fruit, so that they produce social value. And as we continue to expound on that, I'm going to highlight in the next video the San Diego marketplace, the next steps for it, and it's going to get into a little bit more of the minutia of how this all works. So hopefully you stayed tuned to the whole video. Thank you so much for your time, and as always, remember to do good and to share with others. Cheers.